It's time to play more likely. More likely that this Piston player does. More likely that this Piston player does. More likely that the Detroit Pistons do. We're going to have a lot of fun playing the game of more likely on today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, or if you're one of the 50% of people who watch the videos on YouTube but are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast. We're on our road to 3,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On to be the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So again, I'd really appreciate it. Best way to support the podcast, head over to the Locked On Pistons YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. Again, I'd really appreciate it. But like I told you guys in the cold open, we are playing a fun game today. I want to have some fun today, It's the offseason. We got, draft stuff coming up, obviously. We're going to talk about free agency. We're going to talk about the draft coming up soon, the draft lottery, all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to kind of have some fun today with it, play a game. And I came up with this game. I'm sure I'm not the creator of this game, but I just simply thought about it. I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. I thought this would be fun. And I tweeted out, let's play a game called More Likely. Simply, you guys send me a question, but it starts with more likely. So my example that I used was more likely Braxton Key or Saban Lee are on the roster next season. Now, we're not going to answer that question right now, but that was just an example. And I got a ton of questions, and it's going to be a really fun episode. I got a lot. We're probably not going to be able to get to all of them. I think we got over 50 submissions. So I doubt we'll be able to get to all of them, but we'll try to get through as many as possible. And a lot of these questions I thought were really fun. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. Like, I've seen a lot of these questions already. And I know it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get into it. This one is we're going to start off with one from Bryce at Motor City Hoops, who will be on the podcast the next episode. I will say tomorrow, but depending when you listen to it, that will mean different things. So next episode after this one, Bryce will be back on the Locked On Pistons podcast guesting. But he sent in one. It says, more likely, a more diverse, creative offensive system or defensive scheme next season. I really like this question because if you guys followed the podcast throughout the season, you guys will know that I'm not the biggest Dwane Casey fan. I don't think Dwane Casey's all that great. I give him credit when he deserves it, I feel like. But I don't think he's a great head coach. I don't think he's great with the X's and O's. And offensively is where a lot of my criticism really goes to. I really criticize him and go at him. I would say, I'd be honest. I think I go at him pretty harshly sometimes for his offensive scheme and offensive adjustments. So, and I've said, just like, I believe it was like a week and a half ago, maybe like 5 or 6 episodes ago, that no matter what happens with Killian Hayes this offseason, whether he improves vastly, he becomes like this great player, no matter what, he shouldn't start because I don't have trust in Dwane Casey's system to really utilize him and Cade correctly together. So that just to give you guys a little backdrop on how I feel about Dwane Casey's offense. However, his defensive scheme also this past season was something I was criticizing a lot as well because the Pistons switched across everything. Any type of screen wasn't, they didn't try to fight over screens, then get forced into a switch. They just switched everything. And they were really taking advantage of against bigger teams or teams obviously with like a heliocentric player that can just, get the right matchup he wants every single time and score every single time. So I really like this question from Bryce, but it makes you think for a minute. And I think my answer is going to be it's more likely that you see a more diverse defensive system or a different defensive scheme than you are a more diverse offensive scheme. And this is why. One, Dwane Casey is no more for his defense and offense already. Like, defense is supposed to be more of his calling card than offensively. That's first. And secondly, I'll give him a little bit of a pass with this. I think a lot of everything, I won't say everything actually, a lot of his defensive scheme had to do with the fact that he was dealing with a lot of rookies, a lot of young players, and simply the most easiest way and like simplest way to communicate defense to them, to get them to talk and be able to communicate together is simply switch. Like, just call out switch. Like, that seems like the most simple way to like tell a young team to play defensively so they have some kind of cohesion and togetherness on that end. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt until next season that's basically what was happening with this defense. So with another year under their belt in the NBA, another year under the belt with Dwane Casey and his system, I think it's likely you see a different defensive scheme, especially depending on who they get as their starting five, the type of personnel they have. They'll have to adjust their scheme because just switching across all five positions every single time, no matter what your personnel is very dumb. So I think that's more likely to change. I'll give him credit there. I'll give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, a pass until next season, see if that's the case. But that will be my answer. I think it's more likely we see a different defensive scheme than we are to see a more diverse, creative offense. I think Dwane Casey's history shows that as well. Go ahead and answer another one of these. We'll try to get a few in per segment. We're definitely not going to get through all of these. Here's one that a lot of you guys asked. So hopefully I'll take out a lot of the questions. But this one is more likely Cade Cunningham making the All-Star game or the Detroit Pistons making the play-in? This is a good one. I think I'm going to go with the Pistons making the play-in. I think Cade will be penalized just like he was for Rookie of the Year, that the Pistons won't be like some tremendously great team. Now, do I think the Pistons are going to take a jump next year? Yes, I think they'll make some kind of improvement next season. And I do think they'll be competing for the play-in. But I don't think just competing for the play-in, even if Cade has some really good stats, which he had this past season, I don't know if that gets him to the All-Star game, especially with how deep the East is now and just, like I said, how they screwed him over for Rookie of the Year simply based off a win-loss record. So if I'm carrying that over to next season and assuming that's how they're going to vote, yeah, I don't think that Cade's going to generate enough fans vote, obviously, to like secure himself a spot. I think it's more likely that the Pistons simply finish in the top 10. I think that'll probably be more likely, as then Cade Cunningham makes the All-Star game in his third season when the Pistons are like a top 8, top 7 team, hopefully by then. But I think next season, as of right now, it's more likely the Pistons make the play and then Cade make the All-Star game. And my reasoning, like I just laid out for you guys, win-loss record if they're going to hold that against Cade again. Well, let's get one more of these in, and then we'll go to the ad break and try to go a little bit more rapid fire with this one. But let's go ahead and answer this one. This was from Chubbs GB. He says, more likely to be in the rotation next season, Isaiah Livers or Hamidou Diallo? Isaiah Livers is the easy answer for me. I don't know if Hamidou Diallo is even going to be on the roster next year. I don't know if that's a guarantee. And even if he is, we've talked about Hami a lot on the podcast. He's a hard guy to really analyze and a hard guy to fit around, like for him to fit with other players. He's just like a ball of fire, and that either works some nights or it doesn't. Like if he's not just creating havoc on both sides of the floor, he's not really good in the half court. He's not a great team basketball player. Like he's not a great passer. He's not going to keep the ball moving or anything. He's very much like erratic. Like he's very constantly go, 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 go. And some nights that can energize your team and really do great things for you. But in some cases and a lot of times you'll find a lot of those type of players out of the rotation because they can't settle down into a traditional or a half-court offense and learn how to impact the game without being that kind of crazy, erratic, go, go, go player. And we've talked highly about Isaiah Livers in the podcast many, many times at the end of the season, how great of a team basketball player he is, how high his IQ is, how much he provides in spacing. He makes the right passes. He's a connector offensively. He knows how to play within the offense. He talks all the time defensively. He's overall just a great glue guy that you want on the floor because he simply knows how to play and he's going to talk. And he sprays the floor out because he's a great shooter. So I think it has to be Isaiah Livers, no doubt. And that's not throwing shade at Hamidou Diallo. I'm happy for Hamidou Diallo's season. We'll get into when we get into his season review, I'll talk about how much I liked what I saw from Hami, especially based off how it went at the beginning of the season. But I think the answer is Isaiah Livers there. When we come back, we'll answer even more of you guys' questions for the game. More likely, if you guys want to participate in one of these games, mailbag type of things that we do every week, again, comment down below. Or you guys can simply follow me on Twitter so you guys are up to date all the time with when these games or mailbags come to date. And you guys can send them in over there at Kooky Hill if you guys are interested in getting in on the next one. But first, let me tell you guys about some of our sponsors before we get into any more of these questions. First one, let me tell you a little bit about PrizePicks. All right, NBA fans, are you looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA? Then you need to try their award-winning app, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this, and I know you will too. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's really just that easy. PrizePicks is safe and it offers fast withdrawals as well. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from points scored to rebounds and even steals. And get this, PrizePicks allows mixed sports entries. So, for example, when the football season was going on, I'd take the under on Jared Goff's passing yards, and in the same slip, I'd take the over on Cade Cunningham's points. You can cross sports, football to basketball, but it's not just those two sports. You can go college football, MLB, soccer, MMA, college basketball, and more. All kinds of things you can do over at PrizePicks. It's all kinds of fun. So for a limited time, PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point, but you must use code NBA. That's right, this is an exclusive offer available to Locked On fans. Sign up today and use code NBA for $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a singular point. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Then let me tell you about another one of our sponsors, BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your sports betting stats and sports info. Find all of the latest sports development, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season, which, yes, baseball is finally back. Don't even get me started with that MLB The Show game, man. Ever since baseball came back, I've been absolutely no life in that. But BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action today. And if you head over to betonline.net, you'll see that it's not just basketball. They have baseball, boxing, football, golf, hockey, martial arts, soccer, tennis, all kinds of sports. And they have other ones too. And if you head over to the NBA series part, you can take the money line in some of these series. The one I'm looking at real quick that I'm really interested in seeing how this goes is the Timberwolves versus Grizzlies series. Before, Timberwolves were major underdogs. Now, after winning game one, they're at plus 125. Is that enough to get you guys to buy in on the Timberwolves? Who knows? We'll see what happens. But you can do all that kind of stuff over at betonline.net. BetOnline, where the game starts. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the podcast on the road to 3,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On with the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So again, Locked On Pistons YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get back into the game. More likely, and again, if you guys want to participate in this next week or whatever the game is next week, or mailbag, whatever, simply follow me on Twitter at KukaHill or comment in the YouTube section down below. And make sure you're constantly checking up on the YouTube channel. We'll post in the little community part as well and let you guys know when those are coming. But let's go ahead and answer some more of these. So next one is going to be from Rob Fritz. He says, more likely, Killian shooting 33% from three, or Isaiah Livers averaging 10 points a game. I think it's more likely that Killian shoots 33% from three, simply because I don't think Isaiah Livers is, one, going to play enough minutes to score 10 points per game. I think he'll be in the rotation, but I don't think he's going to be like some starter or something. I don't think he's going to have that many minutes. That's one. And two, I don't think he's going to be like, he's going to have like the volume to even get that many shots up. He'd have to shoot like 60%. I think he's only going to get like maybe like 5 shots a game, and they're mostly all going to be threes. He'd have to make like 4 out of 5 of those. But I just don't think he's going to have the volume to be able to get that many points up a game. So I think it's more likely that Killian shoots 33% from three. Also because I think Killian showed some improvements in his three-point shot and in his form to give some kind of belief that, he'll be able to improve his three-point shooting next year. So all that taking into consideration, I think it's more likely that Killian shoots 33% or better from three than Isaiah Livers is, averaging 10 points. Next one is from Pistons fan 14. More likely, Beef Stew or someone new starting at center next season. I think it's more likely that someone new is starting at center next season, because I think the Pistons are going to be trying to push for the play-in. They're going to try to make the play-in. They're going to try to make the playoffs. And like I've said many times on this podcast before, in that scenario, I don't think Beef Stew is a starting center. I don't think he fits that kind of. If they're pushing for the playoffs, he shouldn't be your starting center. It's not going to happen if that's the case. If it does, again, I'll be happy to be proven wrong. But I don't think that's going to be the case. If you're trying to go for the playoffs, you need someone better. You need a better fit. You need a lob threat. You need a roller, a guy who provides more of an offensive threat in the paint around the rim. I don't think it'll be Beef Stew. And since I believe the Pistons will be going for the playoffs next year, I think it has to be someone new starting next year. So more likely there is a new starting center for the Detroit Pistons next season. So next one is we're going to be going rapid fire between these because, like I said, there's like 50 of these. This one's from Dawes. I like the profile picture you have, though. It's Frank Jackson. I really like that. It's a cool picture of him. I see your @ is also Fro Jackson for Prez. That's a cool name. Anyways, more likely to surprise us in a good way next season: Killian Hayes, Marvin Bagley, or Beef Stew. So I'm gonna eliminate Beef Stew. I think Beef Stew is basically, I don't know what else he could really do to just straight up surprise everybody. I think Stu is basically, he is what you get unless he adds like a 40% 3-point shot to his game. I don't think that's going to happen. But I don't think he's really going to surprise anybody. And it comes down to Killian and Bagley. And I think the reason why I'm going to go with Killian in this case is because everyone kind of expects something out of Bagley. Everyone expects Bagley to be good offensively. Everyone expects Bagley to be able to score 10 plus points a game off the bench, whether he is coming off the bench or maybe out of nowhere that he's starting. I don't think that's going to happen. But either way, I think people expect what Bagley's going to give you. You expect it. A surprise from Bagley would be him all of a sudden being a good defender, which I don't think that's going to happen. What would be surprising for a lot of Pistons fans is if Killian Hayes came back next season as a nice scorer and improved aggressiveness that we saw towards the end of the season, and ends up securing that shooting guard starting spot next to Cade Cunningham. So I think simply, not even just by default, but kind of by default, it's Killian Hayes. But I just think Killian, even just basically out of all the players on the roster, probably has the best case for that scenario, the most likely to surprise us, simply because he's still so much of a question mark, and he's just like a box that you want to open and figure out what's inside of it. We still really know what's inside that box of Killian Hayes. In this upcoming season, you're going to figure that out. So, next one is from Aaron on Twitter. He says, more likely, Isaiah Stewart or Killian Hayes to take a bigger leap next season. Again, more like just simply off of default, I think it has to be Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes has a lower spot where he's starting from, and any kind of improvement from any multiple different areas is a big leap. Stu, I just feel like he's more so just, he is what he is now. I think this is basically what you're getting from Stu. I mean, unless he adds like a 40% 3-point shot, which I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think Stu is what he is. So again, I think that just leaves Killian as the only option there for biggest leap next year, most likely. Next one. This one's a fun one. I have a little story time for you guys real quick, just real fast. This one's from Abdulio Garcia. He says, more likely, Koo to go inside a stranger's house or quit his job. So let me give you guys a little background on this, why he's joking around with me here. So, and this is going to be a quick story. Basically, my side job, I deliver pizza on my side job. Today, I got told by my manager, hey, the customer called. They want you to go inside their house and just drop the pizza off inside. I looked at this manager like, bro, are you crazy? Like, what's wrong with you? What do you take me as? You want me to walk inside a random stranger's house? Like, bro, you want me to get shot? You want me to die? Like, what? You want me to get robbed? Like, what's wrong with you? So that I told everyone on Twitter that story, and that's why he's tweeting that at me. But for that, like, you guys gotta tell me, you guys also think that's like absolutely wild to suggest someone to do. Like, that just wasn't gonna happen. And no, I didn't do it. So all you out there like, oh, you probably fell under the pressure to your manager. No, I didn't do that. I did not go in that damn house, and I will never do that. That's very stupid. And if any of you guys listening out here to Lockdown Pistons Podcast is a delivery driver of any sort, and you have someone say, oh, just come inside my house and drop it off, don't do it. Ever. Don't ever do that. Anyways, let's go ahead and get back to the Pistons. I like that question. That was fun. Next one. More likely, the Pistons. Oh, this one's from Rob on Twitter. More likely, the Pistons pay a player $20+ million a year in free agency, or trade multiple assets for a player. So I'm going to go with the Pistons pay someone over $20 million a year. Now, let me just clarify on this. Do I think the Pistons are going to make trades this offseason? I think it's very likely that they could make multiple trades this offseason. However, the key word in this question is assets. So if you're talking assets, we're talking like Saddiq Bey. We're talking about Isaiah Stewart. We're talking about, I don't know if Killian Hayes would be qualified as an asset league-wide, but certainly to the Pistons, I guess you would say he's an asset. We're talking, what else? Picks, that kind of thing. And when you do that kind of thing, that means the Pistons are swinging for a big player. I don't think the Pistons are going to do that. I don't think they're going to give up assets in a trade this offseason. I think it'll be more so betting on players, buying on players. I don't think they're going to take some big swing like that. However, I do think it's extremely likely that they pay someone $20+ million, whether that's Miles Bridges, Jalen Brunson, DeAndre Ayton. They're paying somebody $20+ million a year this offseason. I'm willing to put money on that. I think that's guaranteed to happen. So I think that right there is the answer to your question. And we're going to do one more. And again, we have like 30 more. I'm trying to go fast here. That story time kind of sucked up a lot of time there, but We're going to answer one more, then we'll move on. This one is, where I just lost it. Oh, right here. This one's from Jamera. It says, more likely to be a Piston, DeAndre Ayton or Miles Bridges. Right now, I think it's more likely as Miles Bridges. This is not me saying I think the Pistons are more interested in Ayton or Bridges, or I like Bridges more than Ayton. I'm not saying either of those things right now, even though I may feel that way in some other scenarios. But that's not what I'm saying right here. What I'm saying is that DeAndre Ayton's playing for the Suns, who are probably going to go to the finals, I think. And they're playing hardball with them, but there's no way they're going to let them walk out there. They have like maybe not a dynasty, but they have a perennial contender over there, and they could very well win the championship. There's no way they're letting him walk. Miles Bridges, like we talked about, I believe, like 2 episodes ago, Miles Bridges is playing for Charlotte. He's going to command a big payday. Charlotte's not in a contention mode yet. And they're probably sitting back saying, listen, we don't want to just lose him for nothing, but damn, we can't pay him $34 million. That can't happen. We can't handicap ourselves like that. So I think simply because both of them are restricted free agents, the more likely one to be able to get pried away from their team is Miles Bridges. So that's why I'll go with the answer, more likely be a Piston. I'm going to pick Miles Bridges there. When we come back, we're going to answer more of your guys' questions for the game. More likely. Having a lot of fun. I hope you guys are as well. But first, I have to tell you guys about some of our sponsors. First, let me tell you a little bit about Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning, like is your Odyssey an LX, and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts in their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home or in your pocket by using your phone. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? For example, a Honda Odyssey fuel pump is $353 from a chain store, but $216 from Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business full of serving it, doing it yourselves for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could possibly need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even a new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website to find a solution to your auto part needs. So again, go to rockauto.com. That's rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to our YouTube channel. You guys get all that jazz. Hit that subscribe button. On the road to 3,000 subscribers, continuing to show Locked On. We are the best and fastest growing fan base at the Locked On Network. So again, YouTube channel, Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. All right, let's wrap up the episode. Let's see how many questions we can get in here. This one's from Kyle. This is a fun question here. More likely to die in Love and Thunder, Thor or Jane Foster? Now, if you guys don't know what this is a Marvel movie. The trailer just dropped yesterday. By the time, or when I'm recording this, is the 18th. It dropped today. More likely to die in here, I think, is Thor, simply because I don't think he's going to want to play Thor forever. I know a lot of the other guys have left. Obviously, Captain America left, Robert Downey Jr. left. So I think if you're saying more likely to die, it'd be Thor, just simply so he can stop acting as Thor, the dude who plays Thor. Next one. This one's also from Kyle. He says, Pistons eat a bad contract, or more likely, let me start it off with, more likely, Pistons eat a bad contract for draft capital or overspend on a mid-level free agent. I think it's more likely they overspend on a mid-level free agent. I don't think they're going to be eating a bad contract for draft capital with Cade Cunningham entering the second season. I really just think they're going to be pushing for the playoffs. I don't think they have time to waste with that. I think Cade's ready for it. His camp obviously has been pushing hard that the Pistons will be in the playoffs next year. They want to win, so I don't see them eating bad contracts for draft capital. I think they've skipped that part of their rebuild. I think they're going. If it's more likely they spend on a mid-level free agent, just one that will help them win, but they have to overpay for it to get them to come to Detroit. So that would be my answer there. Next one is from Pistons Going to Work. More likely that DeAndre Ayton accepts a max contract from the Pistons would lead to consistent future team success, or that it would be a misstep that sets the Pistons back down the line. I think it would be more likely that, that's a good one. I think it's more likely to lead to consistent future team success because DeAndre Ayton may not be a max player. He probably isn't a max player right now. He could become one, but I don't think he's one right now. He's going to be, he's a really damn good player either way. It's not like he's going to become Josh Smith or something. That's not going to happen. He's like, I understand Pistons fans are absolutely traumatized by Josh Smith, and trust me, I am too. Okay. However, DeAndre, a lot of these guys that they're going to offer max contracts like Miles Bridges potentially, Jalen Brunson potentially, DeAndre Ayton potentially. These big contracts, they're not just going to become trash or just completely age out and take long twos and just become a liability in today's NBA like Josh Smith. So DeAndre Ayton would have to simply just become garbage for it to be a massive misstep that sets the Pistons back down the line. I think it's incredibly more likely that they simply have more team success if he accepts a max contract from the Pistons. Next one is from Tyler, my guy Tyler Mormon. He says, more likely that the Pistons start to realize, or that people start to realize that Killian Hayes is a top flight perimeter defender, or we see Marvin Bagley start to show real improvement in his free throw percentage to start to hit middies with some consistency. I think the more likely thing is Marvin Bagley improving his free throw percentage, just hitting free throws consistently, because I think when you say people, I think you mean fans. I think a lot of people have drawn their line in the sand when it comes to Killian Hayes. And you either like him or you don't. Either he's good or he's bad. Either he will be good or he'll never be good. Marvin Bagley, though, I really like what we saw from him to end the season with the Pistons. And I think definitely free throw shooting is going to be a main part of his offseason. And if he can do that, he's going to be really good. So I think that's going to be real likely. Again, I just feel like Killian Hayes is you either with them or you're against them basically right now in Detroit. Like there's no in between. There's no switching sides. It's one of the two. So I don't think there's anything Killian Hayes really could do to change that outside becoming like an all-star. So in that scenario, I'm going to take Bagley. More likely, this one's from Heavy D on Twitter. More likely, Pistons sign Andre Drummond or Mitchell Robinson as a center. If they do sign either, they would more likely start over Stewart. I think it's more likely that they would sign Robinson simply because even though I think Drummond would be the better fit, you guys have heard me talk about that before in the podcast, I don't think Andre's going to want to come back to Detroit because, he's been booed every time he's come back, which, again, I'll say for the 500th time, it's absolutely stupid and utterly absurd that he gets booed when he comes back to Detroit. It makes no sense. He gave everything to the city. He accepted Detroit as his home. It's not his fault that they offered him max contract. He said yes. If you got offered max money, would you say yes? Like, it irks me so bad that he gets booed. He's not like he quit on the team or something. He didn't like playing for the Pistons or didn't like the city of Detroit. It was none of those things. Don't get me started with that. Anyways, I think it's more likely that the Pistons sign Mitchell Robinson because of those reasons. So yeah, I think that question is pretty simple, or answer is pretty simple. Next one is from Ari. He says more likely that Jeremy Grant is traded for a pick or a player in a sign and trade. I think it would technically have to be both, right? I don't think they would. Who could possibly absorb Jeremy Grant by just trading a pick back and eat his salary? I don't know. I think it would have. I think I have to go with player. I would have to go across the teams, but I don't know many teams that could just send back a pick and eat his contract like that. I don't know. I think because of that, I'm simply going to go more likely a player in a sign and trade. Next one, this one's from Phil Cross. It's more likely Hamidou Diallo or Frank Jackson is on the roster next season. Frank Jackson simply because he brings spacing and shooting to the team, even though I think it's a question whether either of these guys are back. But if I had to pick one, I think it would be Frank just because he brings spacing. Next one is this fans won't like this one. This is from Laundry Room GM. More likely, Cade Cunningham to win an MVP as a Detroit Piston or request a trade as a Piston. Win an MVP, man. He ain't going nowhere. Cade ain't going nowhere. And he's going to win multiple MVPs. So obviously, it's going to be to win an MVP as a Piston. Next one is from Andrew McFarland. We're going to try to go a little bit. God, we're at 29 minutes. Okay, let's try to go as fast as possible here. This one's from Andrew. He says, more likely, the Pistons' third leading scorer next year is either our 2022 draft pick or the field. The field, man. You're giving me the field? You got everyone on the roster, plus free agency, plus a possible trade. Like, there's no way I'm going against the field. Like, it's very likely it's the draft pick, but also, like, the field, though, you're giving me every other option possible. I'm not great with betting, but I think that would be a good bet right there to take the field. Next one is from Don. He says, more likely, Isaiah Stewart or Killian Hayes being the starter next season. Killian Hayes. This one's from Luke Adams. More likely, the Pistons end up with a big time free agent, or they just make minor moves around the edges this offseason. I think it's more likely to get big time free agent. Troy Rivers really swung me into believing that he's going to be swinging big. The way he talked about being aggressive, they have a lot of money, they want to be aggressive. They've been linked to a lot of big free agents. I think they're going big fishing here, man. I think this is the summer they're really going to go fishing. And let's go ahead and answer just one more, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. Let me go ahead. Let me which one? Let's find a fun one. There's so many here. I want to make sure I get like the. We'll probably, you know what? At some point, I'll probably end up trying to answer all these questions on future podcasts. Maybe next week I'll flush these over to next week's episode, and we'll do this again. I'll answer you guys' questions that I didn't answer on this one on next week's. But go ahead and answer this one right here. Detroit Dynasty says more likely Killian Hayes gets votes for Most Improved Player of the Year, or Saddiq Bey gets votes for Most Improved Player of the Year. Now listen, you guys are gonna call me a homer, you guys are gonna call me a fan, and all this stuff, blah blah. But listen, it's Killian Hayes, dude. Simply because Saddiq's starting at 16 points a game. So he would have to go up to like 22 points a game in the Pistons. He would have to be on incredible efficiency. The Pistons would have to be really good, like all that kind of stuff. Because he's already at 16 points. Killian Hayes is starting at 7 right now? He raised his scoring average to 7 points per game this year. Like Killian it's much easier for him to go from like 7 points to 12 points and win Most Improved Player of the Year than it is for Saddiq to go from 16 to 18 and win Most Improved Player. Like Saddiq would have to do a lot more, is what I'm saying. Killian wouldn't have to do as big of a, well, actually, it probably would be considered a big improvement for him. But from the outside looking, it wouldn't be like this massive, like, oh God, he went from 16 to 30 points. Like, no, he's just going to have to go from like 7 to 13 points or something. So I think that for that reason alone, it would be Killian Hayes that I would say more likely to get votes for Most Improved Player of the Year than Saddiq Bey. But we'll wrap up the episode right there. I had a lot of fun with this. This was a fun game to play. I might make this a reoccurring thing or reoccurring game on Locked On Pistons podcast. If you guys liked it, let me know in the comment section down below. Or if you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, let me know in the reviews down below. Or you can tweet me at Kooky Hill. If you guys like this game, if you guys like this type of episode, if you do, we'll bring it back moving forward. We're going to have a lot of fun games. We also might be bringing back my favorite, Are You Drinking the Kool-Aid? You get it? Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid. But instead of cool, it's KU. You guys get it. Anyways, thank you guys for listening to today's podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Make sure you're making Locked On NBA your second listen of every single day. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. Again, thank you for listening today. Make sure you guys head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. And until the next one, the next podcast, we'll have Bryce from Motor City Hoops on as a guest. Can't wait to see you guys in that one. Hope you guys enjoy it. But until then, stay safe, everybody. Enjoy the playoffs and go Pistons. Peace out, everybody.